Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. We've just reached the top of the hour, and I can see people are still strolling into the webinar room. So we'll be getting started in just a real quick moment, but I wanted to just welcome you to today's webinar, which is a Power Users webinar, which is really a tour of the SnailWorks platform. We'll be taking a real deep dive, though, looking at the powerful reports, as well as taking a look at some of the most recent features. I'm Karen Bartram. I'm your host for today. So let me know by sending me a direct chat if there's anything I can do for you. We're in for a real treat. Today we have two dynamic power users who are going to lead our presentation. Dave Lewis is the president of SnailWorks, and he'll be getting us started. And then Steve Hertz, our director of sales at SnailWorks, will follow Dave. Couple of housekeeping items. We are recording today's presentation, so if you have, you should expect to get a link from me by the beginning of next week to the recording. And we will have time for your questions at the end of the presentation. So at any point in time, if you have something comes to mind, type it up and put it into the Q&A box down at the bottom of your screen, and we'll take those at the end. So Dave, without a further delay, could you go ahead and get us started?
I can, Karen. That's why I'm here. So good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I am Dave Lewis. I'm the president of SnailWorks. And then with me is in addition to Karen, is Steve Hertz, our director of sales. And I'm always amused that I'm a power user because I'm probably number 5 or 6 in the company in terms of skill, and I'm probably being kind to myself. But SnailWorks, as I often say, it's so easy to work that even I can do it. So for the most part, I think it'll be helpful. But when we get into the complicated, cool stuff, I've got Steve to come in the second half and really get into some of the interesting things. I'll do our usual quick little overview of what SnailWorks does and our services, and a lot of them we'll be talking about today. Mail tracking services, of course, is at our core, taking informed visibility, inbound, outbound tracking, and make it work. Informed delivery advertising, supporting customers doing informed delivery campaigns. We did an awful lot of that this fall. And a nice thing about that is we noticed when the promotion ended, the volume is up. People stay with it. Not everybody, but we're definitely busy during the promotion. But each year we keep a few of them because we think informed delivery is a great service. Digital marketing support, and Steve will be touching on this a little bit, which is, in our view, linking direct mail to other channels. So, for example, Steve will be showing you QR codes, personalized QR codes, how to use those to try to tie, make an individual tie from mail into online resources. And finally, political mail tracking. It's finally a year for that. We love the even numbered years, even better every 4th year. So we do expect to do an awful lot of that. We have a lot of the services we really do focus on political mail because we understand a lot of the agencies, in particular in campaigns, have specific needs and how things are organized and how they work and what they want to see. And we cater to them because they got a lot of mail, and we like that. And also part of the political mail tracking is ballot tracking. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Not a whole lot of depth. I want to touch on that because if you're a mail service provider, that is a real opportunity this year, and we can help you with that, because tracking is an important part of it. So that said, let's go ahead. And so to me, when we talk about power users, and again, this is really just a fancy demo. We're going to go into a little more depth than we normally do. SnailWorks is, and we always make this focus, it really is very, very easy to use. There's a surface level to it, just how much mail got delivered today. What states did it get delivered? Things like that, very basic information that anybody can understand, but there's also a lot of depth. You can just, I'm always, when I do demos, I'm still talking, and there's still more features because there's just a lot to it. And so really what we want to talk about today is sort of what our power users use, or people who really like it. And we kind of call it, I consider it purpose driven. They're looking at tracking for a reason. They have a motivation for that rather than just saying we track mail. There's a lot of good reasons to do that. And so we'll sort of dig into that a little bit. Today's agenda, we'll talk about tracking a mailing with purpose. We'll show how to share reports. Talk about delivery analytics. We've had those for a while now. We have some clients who are doing some clever things with them, and we have some more things planned for in the future. So we'll talk about them and show you how you can use those in your business. Informed delivery reporting. We're not going to show you how to create it. This is not a primer on informed delivery, but we'll show you some of the reporting that's available that I think is increasing value. This is a world of data. So we think that's important. And as I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about our ballot tracking services. And this is a fun thing. Again, it may not be pertinent, but it will be one day, which is MailView. This is a new product we have for single piece mail tracking, and I'll spend a couple of minutes showing you how that works. Then Steve will join us for this. This is the highlight of the thing. This is something we've been working on for, gosh, at least a year, maybe longer than that in development, which is flex reporting, which is really creating almost any report for anybody with a little bit of skill. And Steve's got a lot of skill, and he'll show you how flex reporting works. And it's semi rolled out right now to a limited number of beta clients. But when you see it, if you say, hey, I'd like to try that, well, you might be able to persuade Steve to let you. He's the gatekeeper on flex reporting. We track more than pieces. We track containers and other things like that. Steve will kind of give you some in-depth insight on that. Some of the enhanced ACS services we're providing, creating unique QR codes. And, I forgot to put it on here, Steve, but I think you're also going to talk about inbound tracking some as well. Yeah. So even if it's not on my slide, you're allowed to. So that's kind of a preview of what we're going to do. Today is the scariest kind of webinar. We're doing it live. We got a few slides, but it's mostly, we're going to go online. And this will be a live demo. So let's go to the web. Let's see if I can do this. We're all ready. Hey, look at that! I got us on the web already. So that is promising. This is the SnailWorks website. I always do like to tell people about our resources page, because we got a lot of good stuff there. You don't even have to be a customer. The people we like best are customers who look at it. But nonetheless, anyway, there's a lot of white papers, webinars, newsletters. Our newsletters are pretty good. So anyway, there's a great resource for you. It's so good we even called it a resource. So let's go ahead and log in. I am Demo Dave today. And as such, we have some special jobs that we put aside just for doing demonstrations on, and we're going to start with this cleverly named the mailing group. And so this is sort of a couple of jobs. In fact, let me take one quick step back if I don't mess us up already, which is this is kind of how we're structured with sub accounts underneath a parent account. So the mailing group is one of our sub accounts. And so I'm going to select the mailing group. And then underneath that are the jobs that we've been tracking for the mailing group. And sometimes, for a lot of our clients, this is just pages and pages and pages of jobs. Some of them have pages and pages and pages of sub accounts. I was looking today. In fact, I was kind of browsing around. We have one client that has 17 pages of sub accounts of their customers who are doing it. So we like that. Again, we do have multiple splits. This is an interesting job we were looking at earlier. I wanted to kind of share with you guys. And so we have some information. It's got two splits, one called early, one called late, and you'll be able to see they have different mail dates. When you're setting up splits, they can have different mail dates. They can be different classes of mail, lots of different things like that. That's again, for many in the direct mail industry, splits are important, being able to do multiple versions. You can look at them individually as individual splits, or you can look at them, as we're going to today, as just a single, as one job, although we'll split it out a little bit later. This top line tells you whether it's outbound or inbound. This is outbound mail, marketing mail. We changed this recently. We used to have R, I think, for regular, but the Postal Service, because they change the name all the time, and our IT guys finally got fed up and just stopped it regular. We said, nah, you got to do marketing mail. So we got M&M there. Piece type, this is a letter, it could be a flat, it could be a card. Did not do ACS services on this, but they got interesting information anyway that we'll share. And they did have an informed delivery campaign on this. So this is a nice job. It's got all kinds of interesting things on it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the job. And the first thing you'll see when this job opened up, and if you are a customer, this might, it might not be what you see normally, which is we're looking at how many pieces were delivered every day. This is called the daily delivery report. or it's really a view by delivery date. And it kind of shows on a graph how many pieces were delivered each day. Underneath here, it's got that in numbers. This is one of the views. This is another popular view that people can look at up front. And again, this is configurable. If you just talk to your project manager, they can set you up with this. And if you want to, you can start, as is probably the most popular, as a map, as a view by US map, where you can see it laid out how many pieces have been delivered in each state. Again, like with political mail, or if you're mailing to one state, that may not be useful. You may like the other report better. You can also go with a relatively new report, our flash report, and a lot of people choose this as their opening screen too, which is kind of a blend of everything on one page. So that is configurable. That's my first power user tip for you. Make sure you pick the one that works for that particular sub account. You can choose a different one for each sub account. As soon as I say something that's a lie, you need to stop me, Karen, but I'm pretty sure that one's right. And so let's go back to view by date, because it's interesting in this job. Because first of all, it has a funny look. Remember, we have all splits here, and they had one called early and one called late. So that's why we have a little bit of mail delivered up here, then a lot delivered. So what was going on there? But actually, that's easy to explain. We'll just look at early. If we can look at the one split. So this is just the early split. And again, you can see here that kind of shows a more typical pattern. And then if we just look at the late split, same thing. You got it's just, you don't see all those ones ahead of time because it had a different drop date. So that sort of explains why it looks the way it does. Again, this is a very basic view. A lot of clients, this is all they want to see. A lot of your sub accounts, especially, they just want to know how much mail got delivered today. If you're a nonprofit, you can imagine that's an important number. If you're expecting phone calls, you have a call center to man. And so that's that's kind of where that's used. And I'll be showing you very briefly how to do scheduled reports, so they don't have to come look at it. You can just send that number to them every day and send that report each day. So let's go ahead and look at a little bit more depth here. First, we're going to go into geographic views. We have lots of different geographic views that are available. Probably the most popular, the one I usually start with, is to view by state. Some of these we're going to have to change. We've got view by NDC and SCF, and of course there's a reorganization going on, so that soon those will be RPDCs or something like that. I can't even keep the initials straight anymore. But we'll look at a view by state. And I just want to look, actually, instead of the late one, I want to look at the early job, and I'll show you why. So this shows you in each state how many pieces were tracked that were being mailed to that state, how many delivery scans they got, what the percentage was, and so on and so forth. And you can see in this job, which is they got a little over 98% overall on this one delivered. And so if you look at an individual statement, we're trying to look, again, what we're trying to look for now is trouble. I'm not looking for trouble. And as someone I said one time, he who goes looking for trouble will be richly rewarded. So I want to find out, some of the mail takes, most of the mail got delivered in here, but some of it got got delivered really late. What is that about? So let's see. And that's something that's very easy to examine. So let's go ahead and look. So we see Alaska. I'm already starting to get my spider sense is already tingling that I have an idea of what might be wrong with this. Or not wrong, but different. So if you look at this, now by clicking on the state of Alaska, these are the 3-digit zip areas within Alaska. And again, it's very easy to look at these and see, okay, 998 is the slow ones. They're the ones who got delivered, almost 2 weeks after the others. So I'll go ahead and select 998. And that's Juneau, Alaska, if I'm pronouncing that right. And if you select that, that breaks me down to the individual pieces that are in there. So it got, the first scan occurred on the 29th. And I'm going to look at one piece. So that this mail went into in New Jersey, and the fast appointment arrived on the 29th. And it went out of there, and it didn't get into 998 for almost 2 weeks. But that's in Alaska. It probably went on a dog sled. So and I don't kid. Alaska and Hawaii mail delivers slow. It's just there's transportation issues getting there. We can track the trays and containers. Steve is going to dig into that a little bit more in his part of the presentation. So we very quickly can identify, if not now, if this wasn't Alaska, if this was New Jersey, I might be a little more concerned that it took from the 29th to the 15th to get there. And that's something you could raise with the Postal Service. I think if you went to the Postal Service and said it took that long for marketing mail to get to Alaska, they would probably, not be sympathetic to your cause. 2 weeks is not bad there. So that's one interesting way of digging down and looking at that information. Other views that we have that sort of some of our power users are using, and I'm just going to go back to overall state view, and actually I'm going to go back to the view by date. We'll go right back to where we started. And this one, again, we're looking at delivery dates here. Reviews by delivery date. But one other thing that's very important is you can also look at first scan. So you can look at the scans by first scan. You can see in this case, again, we got 97% about first scan. No, I'm sorry, that's still delivery date. Okay, first scan, come on, first scan. There you go, 99.99. That is more typical of what you expect. I wouldn't expect to see 97%. Usually, again, these are not all actual scans. It's the assumed scans of pallets. This is great, though, in an era of seamless acceptance. In order to be able to document that you mailed the mail and when you mailed it, this is the place to do it. There's no stamped postal form anymore. So using informed visibility by looking at that first scan identifies when the mail first hit the system. And again, this is all in the late split here. So you can kind of see when it was accepted by the Postal Service. Important information. We'll go back to the delivery date, though. Some of the other views that have value to them is performance. So one of the things we don't talk a lot about, but it is important, which is job performance. Let's say by we'll do it by SC or by state, I guess. That's what we've been doing everything else by state. And this will kind of show you with the state breakdown with each state, how much mail was early, how much was on time, and how much was late, with a big Pac-Man shaped graph up here to show you that. And the point being, you define what's early, what's late, and what's on time. And so we do encourage, and again, this is another power user thing that they do when they're creating the job. You have the option of picking your in-home date range, your targeted date range. And we think it's very important because that'll affect how this report looks. It'll affect how all your reports look, because you'll always see a sort of a shaded area that was a targeted in-home date. If you put in nothing, we have default values that we will use. Which is what we used in this case. I'm pretty sure that's why there was, a lot of it was late, but it probably wasn't really late. Depends on how those ranges were set, because sometimes the defaults are defaults. They're just kind of an educated guess. So another thing, if you can put in your in-home date range, it's great. If you've got an event, that's a very important thing to do. Other views that are important to look at. One of them is informed delivery. In this case, they had an informed delivery campaign, and let me see, or maybe they didn't on this. I don't see any in here. Oh, on this, I'm sorry, on this split they did not. I'm looking at one split. We'll look at all splits, and that'll happen. So that's what happens when a non-power user tries to get fancy. So let's see if I can look at the late split independently. Wow, I might have to jump back into SnailWorks again. So see, we're showing you, this is real world mail tracking we're showing you here. So let me try to go back here and see if I can get this to behave better for me. I apologize for the interruption. Okay, now I want to look see if I can get into my late split. Or all splits. There we go. I'm still not seeing any informed delivery subscribers here. So something is misbehaving for me in this case. So we'll show you informed delivery reporting on another job in a minute. And again, informed delivery, the reporting when it works is very important, and it generally does. One other thing I want to show quickly on this job before we dig any deeper, is a report. Again, this is to me, again, when you get a question, again, this was 97.72% delivered. Their customer asked, where's the other 2%? It's a fair question. So we do have a report here called not tracked to delivery. And so this report shows how many pieces to date have not been tracked to delivery. Originally, we were going to call it undelivered, but it doesn't mean they weren't delivered. It just means we didn't track them to delivery. So in this case, we can see for the two splits, we had 5,300 pieces that were not tracked to delivery, which is really just the number of pieces tracked by the number of pieces not tracked, which represents 2.28%. Some of them received no scans at all. And there's a lot of different reasons that could happen. It could be seed, something like that. Most of them received one scan, but didn't receive a last scan. And finally, you have this last category, which is PARS, which is a postal automated redirection system, which means that they were caught by postal service equipment and said, "Oh, this has a new address." It's NCOA, but if your NCOA has been updated since then, it'll show up as PARS. So that gives you a clue as address quality. So you may look and say, wow, 817 bad addresses or addresses that had to be forwarded, but that's out of 220 or 235,000 pieces. That's actually a very low percentage. If you want to identify these PARs, one of the cool things about this report is you can click on the number there, and it'll actually give you a listing of who they were. So you can go correct your addresses. You can, or at least remove them. You can identify it. Again, if you're doing it, it may tell you also, you've got a bad list. If you're renting it, you might want to talk to your list broker, or you may want to run ACS on the job as well. So there's some other tools to use. One of the things I'm going to jump back into my presentation for a minute, because Steve Hertz was doing some analysis on this earlier. So this is that same job. This is just a slide of that same report. And they did ask Steve, what's the deal? What's the problem? And so Steve ran an analysis. He simply downloaded a report on the delivery by state for the job, sorted it out, and came up with this. So he found the states where most of the mail had not yet been delivered, or the areas. And if you look, it kind of tells a story. You've got Anchorage, Alaska. Okay, remember, the late stuff is still not delivered to Alaska. So there's a couple of Alaska addresses. White River Junction, Vermont. Vermont does not have much automation in it. That doggone Vermont, I'm often telling Karen, and because a lot of times we have, if you have low numbers in Vermont, don't be alarmed. Honolulu, Hawaii, that's pretty far away too. So you can see these are areas that are still waiting for the mail to be delivered. They're lower than others on average. And the highlighting was done by Steve, but the report was run automatically from the system. And then Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, there's issues with if you watch postal updates. North Carolina, they got a lot of trends of new things going on with their system. So anyway, I thought that was a very interesting analysis and a great use to go to your customer and say, here's where your mail is. Just be patient. It will be delivered. If it was all New Jersey, then we'd have a different problem. But it's not. It's the distant points. There's very logical reasons for low delivery. You're never going to get 100%, but this certainly this clears up a lot of the questions that they had. So a really cool report that Steve had done for them. So back online again. So the last thing I want to show is everything we're looking at. First of all, you can always export it to Excel by pushing a button. In almost every report we have, there's an export feature. But even better, you can create reports out of these that you can automatically send to your customers. We probably have more sub-accounts, more of our customers see their information by pushed reports than they do by logging in. So the view by date, that's the first report we looked at. It's very simple. You can call it whatever you want. You're going to go next. We could select all jobs. And if you do that, and don't worry, I'm going to undo this. So I know Karen is shaking because she's the one who gets yelled at if I create these by mistake. So we're going to pick all jobs for this demonstration account. And we're going to look at delivery scans. Remember, you can also send this report showing first scans if you want to show to your customers how much is going into the mail every day. You can do that as well. Great report, by the way, documenting that you've mailed what you said you were going to mail. We're going to go next. We're running for 21. A lot of options here. I'm not going to go through every option you have. We're going to run it on a daily schedule, so you can pick what days and what times you want the report to be sent. So if your client, they just need to get it once a week, that's fine. If they want it more often than that, you can do that at whatever time you choose. And finally, you can select who it comes from and who it goes to. So it can, and the different formats. So you can send it to one of our favorites for some of our favorite users is they send a copy to the salesman for the account. And so when the salesman, that way the salesman also knows what's going on with their customers' mail, and they can stay in touch with them. So that is so again, I am going to cancel this so I don't get in trouble. So we're not really going to create a report there. Okay, thank you. I try to stay out of trouble if I can. That's really my main objective. I really do want to try to go and look at informed delivery reporting. So I'm going to try a different job here, because for some reason this one is being hard-headed with me. And this is like backing out of the driveway. We're going backwards here. So we'll go to our demo account, which I know has some jobs with informed delivery. And so in this case, again, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, everyone remain calm, but we'll look at the view by state again. And you can see in this case, for each state, you can see how many ID subscribers there were and how many of them got an email, or how many emails were generated. There's a difference in those two terms, which I'll kind of talk about in a sec. So anytime as you drill down to these, those numbers will follow and will change for the area you've selected. But we can go right to an informed delivery report, the ID summary. And this shows there were 4 splits on the job we're looking at now. For each split, how many were mailed, how many people were subscribers within that, and what percentage that was, how many emails were sent. Now, some addresses get more than one email, so sometimes the email number will be bigger than the number of subscribers. And then how many emails were open, how many were clicked, all really great information. And then if you click on campaign details, you will get a listing of everybody who is a subscriber. It turns out they're all named John Q. Sample. But you'll see who the subscribers are, and then did they get an email, did they open it. You can sort any of these by just clicking at the top of a column. Great information, because generally speaking, our customers have found that informed delivery subscribers are by nature more engaged with their mail. So typically, if you need something to pare down your list to do subsequent mailings, whether they're informed delivery subscribers or whether they get emails, is not a bad qualification to look at. Or we have some people who get multiple emails and they use that as their qualifier, because that means they have more than one subscriber in the house in most cases. So a couple last things to go through before I turn it over to you, Steve. I promise you'll get your chance. Let's see, I'm going to go back to the presentation. There's an easier way to do that. I'll just minimize that. So I want to talk a little bit about ballot tracking. And again, this is not a new product for us, but it's getting better and more refined as we move through it. So it's just something to keep in mind, particularly if you're a mail service provider, it's very easy to track inbound and outbound ballots. We've done it for a lot of jurisdictions in previous years. We expect to do it for a lot more as vote by mail grows. And so essentially, by tracking the IMB, you can tell where mail is. You guys know that, you're power users. Or you aspire to be. So the way our system works is that you give us a record, or you can give us the IMBs as well, and we'll assign for each record we'll assign 2 IMBs, an outbound and an inbound, so we can track the ballot being mailed to the voter, and then the ballot coming back to the voting officials. And then with each one of those, we associate a long, ugly URL, a single URL that is unique to that particular voter. And the reason that's important is we don't necessarily need to know who the voter is. We don't want to know who the voters are, because that's just a security problem that we don't want to be involved in. But you can take those numbers we gave you and assign them to the ballots. And then you can, if you so choose, and we can do this for you as well through an email or a SMS text, send the voter a link that they can use. If they click on that link, it'll take them to this unique landing page that has their own voting information on it, or their own ballot information. So in this case, they could track the ballot as it approached them, so they knew it was on the way. And then when they mailed the ballot back, they could see that the Postal Service had, in this case, this was for Chicago. So, but the voters absentee ballot, so they were in New York, so it got mailed to New York. They could see when it was on its way and when it got delivered. And then they could also see when they put it back in, it got accepted in New York and made it back to Chicago. The voters love this. They sent hundreds of emails to Chicago in that case, I know, thanking them for having this service, because the voters had the view. And of course, as jurisdictions had the view too, all the typical SnailWorks reports, so they could tell how ballots were doing overall. They could see how many ballots came in after election day, a very important thing to them. And then finally, when they got a ballot after election day, they were able to scan that ballot, the IMB on it, before they ever opened the envelope. Because in a lot of jurisdictions, as long as you have your ballot in the mail by election day, it's still considered on time. And this is how they could take a piece that came in after election day and scan it and make sure by looking at the first scan that the stamp was canceled on or before election day. So just a very simple, cool way to boost the reliability and people's confidence in vote by mail. And we really think that's as being in the mailing business, we're pretty excited that we can get involved in helping maintain democracy a little bit. It's more elegant than what we get to do a lot of days. And then finally, one last thing that I want to talk about a little bit. Again, it's a new product of ours. And it's not called SnailWorks, but it is SnailWorks. It's a SnailWorks product, which we call MailView. And this is something we're developing. Really, it's designed for consumers, for accountants, for lawyers, which is peel and stick intelligent mail barcode IMB labels that are just for tracking. And essentially what you do is peel one of these off and stick it on your envelope. I did this on my Valentine's. I did it on my estimated tax payments. All the people I love I tracked the mail to them. And so just to kind of show how it works, let me see, I did sheet and pre-select one. So this is something I sent to my sister down in Florida from Maryland. So this is the tracking number that came with it. 017. I'm sorry, I got it wrong already. See, I'm not really a power user in 017 there. And so if you do this, again, it looks kind of like the same ideas as SnailWorks reports, but now you've got, this is really made for, it just kind of looks like a package being tracked to you. So has it been delivered? Yes. What was the postmark date? Because we know when the postmark scan occurred. And what date was it delivered? And then we do have tracking details if someone wants to see the details of how it traveled along the way. So again, a very, very simple product, kind of a cool product to use. And I'll make the offer I always do. If you're interested, right now they're free. It's in a prototype. If you do want to give this to your accounting department to track your bills or the checks that you mail to us, we'll be happy to send that. Just drop us a line. We'll give you some contact information at the end if you don't already know where we are. So that said, it's Steve Hertz is a power user and is always that he spends his life showing how the system works to our prospective customers and works with a lot of our existing customers to help them get more powerful in what they do. So that said, Steve, why don't you take it over and we'll start looking at flex reporting, which is pretty cool stuff. I like it.
Okay, sounds good, Dave. All right, before I go into this, you could probably see Karen and I laughing half the time that Dave is talking because he is the most fun person in the world. I'm
Oh,
telling
yeah.
you.
Ask my wife.
That's why we love our little webinars also. Anyway, this is a really cool product that we've been developing over the last year. Essentially, you can really take any data point in our system and create a whole new query or a whole new report out of it. So what happens is, we think we've got the greatest reports in the world, and we do. But sometimes we have a client that says, hey, I want to combine this report with this report. Can you guys do that for us? Or maybe I want to look across my clients or within a client across all of their jobs and come up with some kind of averages for things. So the Flex report really allows you to accomplish all of that. I'm not going to click off all these things, but you can see you can select by name, or you can select by job number. You can select by drop date, mail class. Here's some of the scan information down here, or mailed quantity. This is a really good one for, most people. They want to know what the elapsed days are, the average number of days it took to deliver that mailing, or maybe what's late or on time. You can break that out even more by postal area, state, SCF. You can combine your informed delivery with it. You can even combine ACS with it. So I'm going to give you a little peek at what one of our clients is doing. This will come up in just a second. So here's all of the different jobs that they did. And you can see it's going to show what the drop dates are, the class of the mail, how much was mailed. This is always interesting to see what the average postal days are. And here they've combined informed delivery results with it. And we even have some where they're combining, the ACS with that, or the inbound with that, or really anything in our system that they want to, collectively look at, you can accomplish using this tool. Now, if you want to sort of pare it down a bit and get a little less granular, let's take a look at it at a summary level. So now it's breaking it down by category or class of mail. And again, you can see now total numbers here and average days and email ID email opens. So it's really a powerful tool. And as Dave said, right now we're beta testing it with a few clients. We're trying to get some feedback from them and to see if there's some other categories that they need us to add to it. But I can certainly, help you guys do a specialized report if you need that. So feel free to reach back to us if that's something that you'd like to look into in a little bit more detail. Now, one of the things that we didn't look at when Dave was doing his demo is called daily delivery report. So, when you're ordering reports to be sent to you, if you can set them up on a job by job basis to go to you. But if you have a lot of jobs that are overlapping with one another, we might suggest getting them on one centralized report. So Pacific Gas and Electric, for example, they had all of these jobs were really mailing roughly at the same time. So it's a way of eliminating all of those emails and just getting one report. The other thing to think about is if you're the reseller or even the end user client, and you just want a straight management report of everything that you're tracking across all of your clients, the daily delivery report will give you that kind of a view. So it's a really great little tool for you to use. Okay, a couple other reports we think that you're going to find helpful. Let's see, let's go into this container summary reporting. So a lot of times what happens is clients will call us up and they'll say, gee, I'm I'm just not seeing delivery happening as quickly as I expect, or maybe I'm having some delivery issues in a particular area. And what we like to do is we really like to go back to the very beginning, when the containers and the trays are entered with postal, and see if we can detect that there's some delay or some issues, even at that point, because they may give us some clues into what's happening. So that's why I've circled here the date of 8/30, the mail date. It's really important, and it's important to keep that up to date, and in your jobs, so that when you're measuring performance, you're really measuring it accurately. But if I wanted to go back and I wanted to see when all of these containers were inducted with postal, I can see all the different areas that they were inducted in. I could see how many anticipated containers were sent to postal, and then I can confirm that all of those containers or pallets have been scanned. So that's why we're seeing 100% here. I can also see on what days those pallets arrived. So, go back to that 8/30 date of that mail date. So it's very, typical that you would see most of the containers having a scan from postal on 9/1 or 9/2. A couple that, are a little bit later in here. So maybe some of the mail was held back. Anyway, you can go from this right down to the detail. So if you want to see a particular container and the movement of that particular container, you can drill into that. And it's going to tell you where it is, and it's going to tell you the dates that it was processed. It will tell you the number of pieces that are within that pallet, even when the fast appointments are made. So, really valuable information when you need to go back and diagnose these things. I'm going to just skip ahead a little bit and show you that there's another report that we produce, and this can go to your IT group or your operations group, and we'll highlight for you if any of those containers do not have a scan. And in some cases, Postal's not scanning the container, but they're scanning the pieces of mail. In other cases, they're not scanning the container and they're not scanning the mail pieces. That's where the problem could occur. Karen and I were just talking about a situation yesterday where a pallet of mail was sitting in a postal facility for a couple of weeks before it even started to move. So, those are the kinds of things that are challenges for you guys. And the container tracking can really help you with that. Now, the best way to organize that is have you speak to our operations group and Dave Herring or some of the folks in our customer service group, and they'll really advise you how you go about providing some of the information so that we can track these containers. But really, really valuable, give you good insights. The next category, and Dave sort of touched on this a little bit with ballots, is you can track incoming mail. And there's really two flavors to this. There's one where on a business reply mail envelope, this intelligent mail barcode is the same for every single BRE that's coming back. In that case, we don't know who's sending that piece back, but we do know the number of pieces that are coming back in the mail. So we have a lot of fundraisers who like to, record how much response they're getting. And if they can attribute it back to revenue and anticipation of revenue, they do that, or overall response. And we have other customers who really want to track to the individual. And in that case, the intelligent mail barcode is unique to them. So think about that ballot. On the outbound mail, that IMB is unique, and on the inbound ballot tracking, the IMB is unique. So that's, fairly similar to what Dave was showing you. Dave did reference PARS a little bit. So that's when Postal is intercepting that piece of mail because they have a newer address on file after the NCOA update. But, people are moving around the country constantly, around 17, I think it's around 17%. So they're putting in change of address late sometimes, so it doesn't show up. And we have a lot of customers that want to see not only how many of those people are moving and maybe want to get the new address so that they can reach out to those people, but we have a lot of customers who also want to see what's the mail that's not delivering, and that would be the Nixies. So in this case, out of the 4.1 million, you have about 1.6% that were undeliverable, and you had about 3.75% or so that had a change of address and have gone to a new location. So we have all different kinds of reports that can go out to you. On screen, you can just take a look at some of the reasons why people did not get a piece of mail. One of the things is if you're getting a feed from USPS, it's not going to identify who the individual is. But because you're tracking the mail in the SnailWorks system and we have that data, we can match that Nixie data back to that individual. And of course, it all comes to you electronically, so you can update your databases with those people who are not getting mail and those people who are moving to new addresses. And it comes to you in a single consolidated format. I'll skip over this. This is just the view of an old and a new address, and just mention that secure destruction is another strategy that a lot of folks use with ACS, and we give you a lot of recommendations on how to work with those NCOA with those Nixie records. And just one other point I want to make is that Lisa Bose is our postal affairs expert. If you need any advice or help on setting up ACS, our system will make that very easy for you, and Lisa will walk you through everything that you need to know about the correct service types to use, and also how you would set up for secure destruction or even your endorsements.
Yeah, and we've put a lot of effort into that in the past year, into really sort of updating our ACS system. And secure destruction comes as a separate file from the Postal Service than ACS data does. It's kind of a nuisance for a lot of people. So now we combine them all into one file, or we can. So all that information can be in a single file. A lot of clients are really find it makes the ACS a lot easier to deal with. Okay, the last thing that I want to show you is something new that we've developed over the last 6 or 8 months. And it's really the ability to create not only a QR code in our system, but a personalized QR code in our system. So if that went out on a mail piece to Dave or Karen, when they scan that mail piece, I know specifically that it was Dave, or I know specifically it was Karen who scanned that mail piece. So essentially what happens is in your mail tracking job, you now have I know you can't see this very well, but you have the option of having QR codes along with that job. You just download them directly from the mail tracking job. And once they're printed on your mail piece and the prospect scans it, we're going to record who that individual is. We'll also know the date and the time and the IP address and where they went. And you're going to put them directly from that scan into your client's web page. And an easy way of thinking about this is if you wanted your client to make donations and you had the QR code on their mail piece, they would scan it and they would go right into the donation page. So it's a really nice little feature, easy to use. Your printers will have, if you're using an outside printer, they're going to have no difficulty doing that. And it works great with digital printing, and it's very inexpensive. So it's a great way to sort of get into the omni-channel without a huge investment of landing pages and pearls and so forth. But if you want help with that, we do that too. But anyway, Dave, I'm going to turn it back to you. If there's anything else that you want to review. I just wanted to touch. Thank you, Steve. I did want to touch on the URLs because or on the QR codes, I should say, because we see that as kind of made a big comeback lately, and we've seen some interesting applications. We've seen people use 2 QR codes. One was for a charity, and if you want Alicia to get a car so she can get a job, click here. And if you want her to get better access to food, click here. You can like choose how you want your donation to go, and it was very effective for someone. Plus, it kind of helped them to measure the psychographics of their donors as well. So a lot of cool stuff. Unique QR codes. Way underused. When I get a QR code and it doesn't know it's me, I get frustrated these days because they sent it to me. They should know. Direct mail is one-on-one communication. They know who they're mailing it to, so it really it's all digital printed. These, not all, but the vast majority. So particularly for self-mailers and things like that, with QR codes are pretty cool. And we got a nice, easy tool to support them. Like I said, you don't have to do it is effectively you throw in an informed delivery and a QR code like this, and you've got, it's effectively omni-channel with really almost very little effort or expense to do it. It's a much easier way to step into that and to help connect your mail to online resources.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw one last comment in there, which is we have a new scheduled report. So if somebody has scanned that QR code and you want to get a notification of that, you'll be able to have that report sent to you every day of just those folks who have clicked through. So if you want to follow up with them, or your client wants to follow up with them, they are good leads. It's definitely a nice little report. And the last thing I just want to say is, some of our clients also get trigger files from us. And a trigger file is really any activity of the mail tracking job, and it's sent to them as a file that they can upload into their CRM system or database systems, or their own client dashboards. And we have a number of clients who utilize that as well. And Dave, I think that's all for me.
Cool. That was, the first line we ever had, the first tagline, I think, before when we started the business was, don't just track your mail, do something about it. And that's kind of what trigger files are about, which is try to, take action based on when your mail is delivered. Coordinating other channels is very important. It's you really can't, the multiple touches on a consumer or on a donor really do make a difference. And there's also a lot of easy channels to do that we can enable for you as well. So all that said, and there's our contact information. So if you have questions, just want to send fan mail, want to get a kit, one of our mail view kits, you can reach Steve or I there at either one of those, or just customer service at snailworks.com is always fantastic too. Karen, do we have any questions or anything we need to go to before we move on?
We do have a few questions. We have somebody asking about the QR codes. Does it generate an actual Perl where data pre-populates a form, or just track who clicked on it?
It is a unique, it is effectively a Perl. And Perls are personalized URLs, which usually the only difference is they try to make those more user friendly, in that they say something like, dave.lewis.hotdogs or whatever. I don't know, that's a terrible URL, but whatever they're selling this one. So, but absolutely. Now that is on, and we can help you get that set up. Although ultimately it's whoever's managing the web page can take this data and use it to pre-populate the web page and make it a unique experience for each person. So it is effectively a Perl, does the same thing.
Right. And it may be easier than you think. It may be as easy as us passing a reference number back to your IT group, and they use that reference number to populate that page, populate that form on your web page.
Got a couple of people asking about the container reporting, Steve, that you showed.
Mm-hmm.
This user in particular is saying that they don't see the information that you demonstrated. Is that a problem with how their jobs are being entered?
I'm sorry, Karen, could you repeat that one more time for me?
Sure, with the container reports that you showed, got a couple of people asking how they access the reports, specifically one user's observing that they don't see those reports populated in their account.
Yeah, okay, so we have to get from you, when you upload a job to our system, we have to get a container barcode and a tray barcode and an induction point. If you know, certain softwares allow you to export those fields to us, and if you do, then we can capture that information from you for you. If you're not concerned with tracking to the name level, you could submit a mail.dat to us, and that will allow us to track the containers and the trays as well. So operations group can really help you manage that. And it is a drop down in our menu. So you can really just go right to container inductions. And then, as Dave illustrated, as you cascade down to the detail in the system, you can go from that high container level or induction level all the way down to a piece.
Very good, thank you. One last question, and I actually can answer this one. They're asking if they can get a copy of the presentation deck, and I'll go ahead and include that when I send out the recording link. So,
Yeah, you'll need the recording. Our deck is smaller than you think. We were flying without a net there. I only busted the system once. I was very proud of that.
Yes, Dave, we're proud of you. So with that, you've covered all of the questions that we've received. If I have missed something, we'll certainly get back to you one-on-one. Any
Okay.
parting words, gentlemen?
No, thanks for joining us. We hope it was valuable. We love this stuff.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for whatever our next webinar will be. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gary.
Bye.